but we're going to have some questions now. There's a great number of questions coming in the Slido, so thank you for all the questions you've been asking. And we're going to bring Dick and Levi back into the picture so that we can put some of these fantastic questions to you. I don't know if you can see what's been popping up in Slido, but thinking on to the issue more at hand, and again, probably this is for Levi particularly, how difficult is it to be a missionary in Japan? I've heard it's quite closed, question says. So how difficult can it be?
Yeah, so okay, let me say three things. One thing is kind of so yes, in the sense of the statistics you've heard are probably accurate, and the church in Japan has never been more than kind of 1% really. It depends on how you count, and it's, you know, counting in numbers is always hard. But I think, like, I mean, on the back as well, what Dick said earlier to this Japanese person, I really do believe that there will come a time when the Japanese will turn to Christ. And I think the way, I mean, I don't know what God will do. I'm not the Lord, so take this with a pinch of salt. But I just think that what I know of the Japanese people and Japanese culture, when it happens, it will happen en masse. And the image I have of that is kind of like, if you had, like, say 100 saplings and you were cutting them down, you would see over time, like, we're making progress, like, you know, they're falling down, we've got half of them cut down. If you were trying to chop down a massive redwood, you wouldn't see, you would be hacking away at it, and people would come and give up and go away, and then you would, you know, and you wouldn't see it any much progress, you wouldn't see it. But eventually, if you keep hacking away at the redwood, it will fall, and it'll be a mighty turning when it does. And I think we're going to see that. One thing I've seen, can be hopeful that, you know, even in the last couple of years with COVID, is that actually when there's been suddenly we've not been able to rely, in Japan, we've not been able to rely on outside help. We haven't been able to have mission teams come in from overseas, which has been a standard. Even, you know, missionaries, long-term missionaries have not been able to come in from overseas. So many Japanese Christians, and especially the younger ones, have really just stood up to the plate, taking on things, taking on leadership, doing initiatives, creating original worship music, they're writing things, getting out on YouTube. And so the church in Japan is really stirring. And so I think, yes, it's hard, but actually, you know, like someone once said, maybe this was Hudson Taylor, I don't know, you know, compared to God, all problems are the same size, smaller than him. And that's, you know, compared to God, it's not it's not a problem he can't overcome. I would say finally, I don't know how many numbers I've gone through, but as a final point, the hardest thing about being a missionary is this guy right here. And that doesn't change whether I'm in Japan or whether I went to Glasgow or London or, you know, Tanzania. Like, the hardest thing about being a missionary is the sinner you bring with you. And I think that doesn't change. So, you know, in God's grace, again, God's grace is bigger than all that. So that's not it's a problem, but it's not one that God can't work through. So, yeah.
Great, thanks so much, Levi. Yeah, that's really helpful, actually. And that picture, that's a powerful picture of the redwood being chipped away at. Yeah, thank you. I got a question I'm going to put to Dick now. What would you say to someone who feels called to mission, but no country in particular?
If God hasn't put a particular country on your heart, it means, like when you decide to have breakfast in the morning, you have a choice. You can choose. When I was an undergraduate, I chose to pray for Latin America. I led a weekly prayer group before lectures, and we prayed for Latin America, and that was worth doing. The Lord, if I tried to go to Latin America and it didn't make sense to me or to anybody else, and so I assumed that I was, quotes, called to England. You can hear from my accent that that's where I originated from. And then the General Secretary of the student movement in the Philippines asked me to come over and help him in answer to prayer for guidance. So I ended up in Latin Asia. And if you choose and the Lord doesn't approve, the Lord can stop the doors. Don't worry about it. But for goodness sake, don't say, well, I haven't got anywhere particular on my heart, so I won't move. You can move. God gives you that choice. That's been so since the Garden of Eden, that you can choose as long as it's in the parameters and the boundaries of what God has laid down in his word.
Thank you. Yeah, really helpful. Okay, Levi, quick question for you. What did it, well, maybe it's not a quick answer, but what did it look like practically doing mission during COVID?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been very different than I was imagining. Japan has been a weird thing for lockdown because so the government can't actually enforce any sort of legal restrictions. They just kind of make lots of requests. They kind of, it all ties back into the post World War II kind of things the government's allowed to do. But basically, it's been a very kind of like vague ongoing thing of like, technically we could be kind of doing church as kind of normal, but actually it's kind of a lot of work, how people would feel about that and kind of trying to be responsible and caring for people. So what it's looked like for me in practice has been, for one thing, it's been lots of Zoom calls. Like, I mean, like it's just a lot. We've been having lots of meetings, planning things. We had a lot of kind of planning, not knowing what was going to happen with the Olympics when they got postponed, and then kind of still planning. And then when they went ahead, not knowing what we were going to be able to do. And, you know, even up to like weeks before, it was actually, oh, we're going to be able to do public viewings. No, we're not. Okay, at least we can have some people in the Olympic Village as chaplains. Okay, only one. Actually, they're not allowed into the Olympic Village. So it was an ongoing thing. So lots of meetings, lots of prayer. We ended up organizing this thing called Japan 1 Million. If you want to look at the website, japan1million.com, we're still looking to kind of move that ahead in the coming months, trying to work out how do we keep mobilizing prayer for Japan. So lots of prayer meetings going on, which has been amazing, praying with guys throughout Japan and guys throughout the world actually coming in. Lots of just, I guess, trying to build on friendships I have. So whether that was just more communicating with guys online, doing some kind of like, you know, Zoom gatherings, meeting up with people more one-to-one, because that was kind of, you know, doable thing. So just going to hang out with people. Lots of, like I mentioned just a bit earlier, you know, people who are Japanese Christians who are getting into doing things on YouTube and recording things. So a lot of what I kind of really passionate about is just encouraging, especially the younger generation, to do that. So seeing guys who are doing things and getting kind of active and encouraging them, trying to support them what they're doing. It's been getting involved in some training things. Yeah, like a lot of kind of those kind of things, and a lot more, I guess, actually kind of end up getting kind of connect with people kind of randomly around the world. Like I chatted to some guy from Mexico who I met on Instagram and passionate about mission, met a guy from Germany and we were talking about kind of missions and stuff, and group in Brazil. So I feel it's been lots more kind of connecting with people and a lot more mobilizing prayer, but also just a lot more trying to think with the church here strategically about how we kind of move forward. And then a lot of, well, probably less, but still some kind of meeting up with people, just in smaller numbers. And I found the friends I had existing, a lot of them being much more open to talking and sharing and just being more real about the things they're going through. So it's been more opportunities for just sharing a bit more and asking people, can I pray for you, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of been it.
Great, thank you. I love hearing how, despite all the restrictions of travel and the things we're used to doing, there have been these opportunities and encouragements, and yeah, it's great to hear. I've got time for one more question for Dick, and again, you're going to have to see how you can fit this into a brief answer. But the question is, when meeting a partner, how do you need to share the same calling?
If you don't, you're going to be pulled apart, as far as I'm concerned. It seems to me that when you are considering where to go, you need to, I mean, if you're considering a partner, you need to have a partner whom you can make stronger and who will make you stronger in following the Lord. If you're going in different directions, that's not going to work. If somebody just says, oh, I'll tag along with you then, because I love you, I have seen people come home very quickly in that sort of situation. You need to reach one mind about it. It may mean a whole load of give and take before the Lord as you seek what you can do together as a couple. But if you're actually pulling in different directions, it's not, as far as I'm concerned, a good basis for a partnership.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, Dick and Levi, for your time and your wisdom and experiences